Hi guys, this is Allison from ALLYKAT Creations. How are you? Please hit that like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you have yet to do so. If you get anything from my work, a connect the dot, an epiphany, a mind blown moment, new books to read, new authors to explore, oracle card readings, all of that fun stuff. All that stuff is in the description, and I got some new pyramids for sale. Check out my website, ALLYKATCreations211.com. I don't sell anything off the website. Email me if you see something, take a screenshot or describe it to me, and we can discuss. I do everything very private right now because they like to eat at everything you do, and prices are going up and things are, I'd rather just work one-to-one with a person. So please email me if you're interested in any of the things that you see on the site. Some of that is just examples. Finished work usually is up for grabs, but always check with me and I can always customize anything for you. The philosophy of war. I'm going to get into this today, the Battle of Armageddon. So for those of you, I'm going to get into that for a minute. For those of you who don't know, I've been extremely under the weather. I have a sinus infection. I had a blockage that was giving me extreme ear pain and sinus pressure and headaches and cluster headaches and migraines and all kinds of stuff. And that was just because of what's going on. My throat, my tea is cooling down, so I won't be able to drink that, but I got my water. I've been overdosing in a good way, all my supplements, and just trying to rest. I haven't really been sick in a very long time to this extent. So I do hope you guys understand that, and I apologize if I sound muddled. I've been trying to clear my throat all day, and Jason and Jack just got off alive how many hours later. So I'm getting back into it slowly. I just updated my website with some new candle scents and some new pyramids, so go check that out. I appreciate all of you, and thank you. Also, last to note, I have to go through my playlist to see what I have yet to read in Awaspe, so hang on to your hats. That is going to be incoming. But I wanted to get this done, something done today. The Battle of Armageddon. Quote, to whom shall I speak and give warning? That they may hear. Behold, their ear is uncircumcised, and they cannot hearken. Behold, the word of the Lord is unto them, a reproach. They have no delight in it. Jeremiah. Quote, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of the devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the whole earth and of the whole world to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. End quote, Revelations. The meaning of Armageddon. The literal meaning of Armageddon is on the heights or on high. And in this sense, it is used to designate the invisible realms of the astral plane. The hosts, which are gathered to this great battle, are the hosts of the accumulated thought forms. I talk about that all the time. Of lust, greed, envy, hate, selfishness, and unbrotherliness, engendered by the wrong thinking of humanity for the beginning, as well as the results of their evil words and deeds, all of which are ever seeking expression through their creators. Sorry, I had to clear my nose. Fruit of thought. Jeremiah specifically refers to these forces as causes when he says, quote, "Hear, O earth, behold, I will bring evil upon these people, even the fruit of their thoughts, because they have not hearkened unto my words, nor my law, but reject it," end quote. During this battle, all the stored up evil must have a focus through which it can pour itself out upon the lowest of physical plane, where its precipitation will end the cycle of its manifestation. Pause. Now go back to the Vedas and go back to the Norse. Ragnarok is exactly this. Where did they get this? The pagans wrote it. Who did Odin battle? Who did Thor battle? Yeah, those evil things. Time is at hand. These forces have accumulated because during the childhood of the race, the masters of wisdom and the rulers of the subraces have held the forces back until the race grew strong, enough to bear them upon its own shoulders, grew up, as it were. But the race has now grown up, the cycle is closing, and the time for adjustment is at hand now. Therefore, I am full of the fury of the Lord, law. I am weary with holding in. I will pour it out upon the children abroad and upon the assembly of young men together. Jeremiah. Hand instruments. And there is invariably found some human being who, because of his prominence and because of his habit of opening his mind to the insulating flattery and flattious promises of great obtainments, or perhaps world domination, from the astral leaders, whom the Bible refers to as the rulers of the darkness of this world, becomes the executor or mouthpiece of the stored up evil forces, or the channel through which they find expression in the physical world. As for instance, Nero, the Borgias, and others in later eras. In this way, the evil and unredeemed karma is adjusted so as to permit the good aspect of the forces involved to be extracted, just as ore is crushed or melted, that the gold may be extracted. Self-chosen ones, often such and one believes himself to be the chosen of the Lord, chosen to cleanse the world or impose his idea of culture upon it, for the dominant principalities of evil have convinced him that they are the voice of God, and he prides himself on being their obedient servant. Egotistical leaders. While many refer to the last European conflict as Armageddon, the meaning of the word shows that war is but one reflection or outpouring on earth of the real battle that has been raging in the higher realms. It is precipitated now because another earthly channel has been found in the person of a leader sufficiently egotistical, presumptuous, and self-righteous to listen to the flattery of the obsessing astral entities and become the earthly advocate of those powers of darkness. Wars and cataclysms. The working out and adjustment of these karmic forces must take place at the close of each race, and in a lesser degree at the close of each subrace. These adjustment precipitates the great race wars, which are followed by the cataclysms, which mark the close of a subrace and races. For every particle of matter composing the race continuance, as well as every particle of the body of an individual man, must have its own individual balancing, purification, readjustment, and ultimate redemption, that it may be ready for the same people when they reincarnate again. Pause. Oh, the next part, holy crap. We are here right now. We are a sub-race, in my opinion and estimation and interpretation of all the other books that I've read. We will become the dominant race with the next generation of children growing now. They're the ones who are already upgraded. All the ascension symptoms and all the plasma and the flashings of light and all that stuff is just, it's been happening. It's upgrading us, but we're not there yet. We got a lot of work to do as a humanity in order to shift completely in totality. And most of us will have to end this vehicle and reincarnate to be a part of the new world. Not all, most. And this is all what I'm getting. And that's okay. We got a lot of work to do in order to set up the new world. And we're nowhere near it. And it's going to take a slow rollout at best. This next part. Sinking of Atlantis. Before I get into this, many of us were alive in incarnation during Atlantis. It wasn't our time to shift yet. We still had a lot of work to do on our souls. And here we are. We're back again. Many of us were in Atlantis. So just remember, if you're getting those flashbacks, Lemuri is a part of that as well. If you have those memories, you're here to graduate, you're ascending. But there's a lot of people who will not. They need to be here, including some of these aliens and other beings, to watch us transform. So they have the memories imprinted in them. So when they reincarnate and have to go through this cycle for themselves, they're going to remember us as we are remembering our Atlantis. Does that make sense? Sinking of Atlantis. The Great Racial Armageddon occurred just before the sinking of the continent of Atlantis at the close of the cycle of the fourth great race, Atlantean. Quote, this hints at the struggle between the sons of God and the sons of the dark wisdom, our forefathers, or between the Atlanteans and the Orion adepts. The whole history of that period is allegoricized. You guys know what I mean. I can't get that word out. In the Ramayana, which is the mystic narrative in epic form of the struggle between Rama and the first king of the divine dynasty of the early Aryans and the agent of the white forces. And Ravana, the symbolic personification of the Atlantean Lanka race, and the agent of the black forces. The former were the incarnations of solar gods, the later of the Luna Divas. The battle of good and evil. This was the great battle between good and evil, between white and black magic, and for the supremacy of the divine forces over the lower terrestrial or cosmic powers. The sinking of the continent of Atlantis, which followed, was the balancing of the accounts of the entire fourth race. It was necessarily preparation through the purifying action of the salt water of the continent for a future race. Here we are. The survivors who were sufficiently spiritualized, awakened, and obedient to follow their divine rulers were picked out, separated, and trained by the masters long before the sinking of the continent and became the seed of the present fifth Aryan great race, just as some are now being chosen and trained for similar function. That is the way showers, that is many of us right now. We are seeding the next generation. They're already upgraded. We just have to help them. They have the wisdom. They just don't cognize it and put it into form just yet. We're there already. We're helping and steering them so they can move on. We're seeding that right now. Just my interpretation and perception. Subrace karma. This present fifth race ends, and we are now just entering its sixth subrace. A similar adjustment of its race karma must take place, and it is now already begun in physical manifestation. The great European war now raging offers a focal point through which the karma of the fifth subrace of the Orions can be precipitated on the physical plane and adjusted. We're moving into the sub-seventh race. Your grandkids, babies coming after, are going to be the seventh great race. We're the sub-sixth, moving into sub-7. Ra talks about the sub-octaves, the octave, the sub-sub-octave. It's the same concept. Use what Ra said in the Law of One. It is the same concept. It's just frequency. It's just expansion of consciousness with physicality happening. We're seeing things happen at a very rapid rate. Why? Earthquakes, destruction. That's all physical manifestation of what we're going through. Deluded leader. For it is the beginning of the great period which will mark the close of the fifth great race. And in Emperor William of Germany, a leader has been found who could be so deluded and obsessed as to be used as a tool for the dark forces. But we must remember the words of Jesus, quote, "It must needs be that offenses come, but woe to that man whom the offense committeth," end quote. Therefore, while we must condemn his acts, we must also pity and pray for the man. Oops. I guess whatever I'm channeling from Yeshua is truth. Divine neutrality. You don't accept their shit, but you don't feed it either. Europe, the focal point. Europe is the first focal point because it was in Europe that the greater part of the karma was engendered. Through the many bitter political wars which drenched its soil in blood, through the sectarian wars carried on in the name of the church, but which perverted religion and made priestcraft a curse, and through the intolerance, selfishness, and mental and spiritual blindness of the religious leaders, which manifested in the mental war, which finally culminated in the most inhumane persecutions the civilized world has ever known, the Inquisition. The Inquisition. Today we are reaping especially the karma sown by the unspeakable cruelties practiced by the Inquisition, for it stands as the great crime of the fifth sub-race. While it is true that the Christians were burned and tortured in the earlier centuries by Nero and others, even what are called the pre-Christian atrocities, were but the spawn out of which the Inquisition was hatched, and from that became betraced almost all the degrading crimes of the later days, especially intolerance and hatred and their results. The Inquisition in Germany. We are apt to associate the Inquisition with Spain, yet Spain and her Western colonies did not institute the Inquisition until the year 1232. While in Italy, France, Germany, and England, it was in full swing, with intervals of cessation from early in the 6th century, especially in Germany, with Conrad of Marburg called the Terrible. As chief inquisitor, the quality was persecuted, the cruelty, dyslexia, persecuted with such extreme zeal as even to exceed the wishes of the Pope. The Inquisition was also established on high seas in all galleys and ships. There, the cruelties and punishments were beyond belief. Astral battles. The battles of the physical world are fought on the physical plane with physical weapons. But the true battle of Armageddon must be fought first upon the astral plane with thoughts and psychic forces for weapons. The conflict now raging between and being pouring out of the evil and gathering together of the forces of good for the final battle on the higher planes. That's why many of us can remember what our light bodies have been doing in the past couple of years when we don't dream, and sometimes we are waking up with scars and scratches and stuff, and we're like calling it demonic attacks or other things. This is where I feel many of us, our light bodies, our souls, have been fighting the war upstairs in our sleep. There's many of us I have conversations with that talk about waking up in hot sweats and there's blood, and I've woken up with bloody noses and scratches all over me. It's not my cat. And it stopped. Many of us have been through this war here and now, just using our other higher self in that fight, our light bodies. Time of adjustment. This battle has already begun. And during the entire 6th sub-race of the present 5th great race, we may expect a more or less unsettled condition. For this is the time of adjustment, the time of struggle to overcome the evils which the race as a whole has outlived, yet which it has not fully conquered and redeemed. The Christ force. The number 6 is both the number of the Christ and also unrest. It symbolizes the mighty struggle of Christ's force to penetrate into and transmute the evil and manifest itself. Hence, only as humanity enters into the 7th sub-race will it have true and lasting world peace and rest. For God blessed the 7th day and hallowed it. Also, the 7th race and each 7th sub-race is especially blessed, and during that period rested from his labors. Coming disasters. Therefore, Therefore, the progress of the 6th sub-race into which we are now entering will be marked by tremendous disasters precipitated upon the physical plane, wars, unusual earthquakes, cyclones, volcanoes, eruptions, and meteoric showers, floods, etc., of more or less severity until the final battle and cataclysm, in which the battlefield and the defeated army will be swallowed up, and a new and purified land shall rise out of the waters during the 6th sub-race, for the new 6th great race to inhabit. The victors will remain as the seed of the new race to people the new land. We're here now. Hi. This is us. There's no doubt about this is us. And again, first published in 1909. I just saw a little footnote. What? the first battle, the final battle, does not refer to the end of this present war of nations, but to the close of the true battle of Armageddon, of which the present world war is but the first phase. Now they're referring to World War I. We'll see. We'll see. Lemuria rising. The cataclysmic changes in the Earth's surface will result in their rising up, out of the waters of the Pacific Ocean and the ancient Lemurian continent, which during the entire seventh subrace will pass through the various steps necessary to make it a fit dwelling place for the sixth great race, the new humanity. Just as these changes must take place for the planet, so must they take place in humanity through bloody wars, strikes, and other conflicts, which will continue until all conflicts of man with man and man's resistance to the divine are swallowed up, and out of the waters of affliction there shall arise a new and greater humanity with true brotherhood, love, peace, harmony, and cooperation as its watchword. The time has now come when the accumulated mass of old race karma must be definitely met and conquered. Humanity can enter upon the new subrace, its next step in evolution. Pause. Man conflicts of man with man. So what have all of my spiritual soul advices have been advising you to do? Again, I'm reading this with you. Okay, this isn't just coming from some la-di-da concept that I made up. I'm getting channeled this information. They got channeled this information. FYI. Like I keep saying, this is going to continue until more people stop pointing the fingers, come into divine neutrality, and stop hating others. You don't condone what others do in the negative form. You just don't feed it. And you send them compassion and grace, for that's God having an expression in the negative form. To understand your divinity, know thyself. I do a lot of work on that on this channel, of finding yourself, knowing the divinity and what you are inside. Everybody wants instantaneous gratification. That's what this world has geared us up for. That's what this moving forward in technology in the age of, I need it now, I want it now. Well, you can't have what you want to manifest if it's not coming from the right space in your heart. We want certain things, but on a mass scale, like world continuous karma and all of those things that we fail to recognize when we're talking about these laws and these great things that are supposed to happen and the flash of light that's supposed to come, are you personally in the right space to accept that energy? Are you able to breathe the breath of divinity in you? The choice is yours. Are you feeding agendas of hate? Are you looking at everything, then telling me in a chat, well, I don't feed it my energy, but then why are you spamming chat with the nonsense? Because you doubt. It's one thing to ask opinion. It's one thing to spread the doubt in yourself that you should know in your heart space. Everybody's perception of what things are different. The interpretation thereof, because you're in a frequency, other people are in higher frequencies. Some people are in lower frequencies. We all receive information differently. We all interpret and take in things differently. That's a definite. But are you transmuting what you are receiving and looking at it objectively, not lending your energy to it? You're looking at it objectively. Okay, that happened. Great. Indifference, neutrality. Doesn't affect my everyday life. But just a thought. These words are amazing. And they're everything. It's validating. It feels great to know that I am speaking and putting forth what others have put forth eons ago. It's insane. The dweller. This, in a measure, is to the world what the dweller on the threshold is to the neophyte. And as with the neophyte, before each important step is taken, it must be met and conquered. For just as a neophyte, through his evil thoughts, words, and acts, has created an entidized form of evil, his individual dweller, so the planet has been pouring out its evils throughout its long cycle until they have become entitized as a dark planet, with a living ruler, the Antichrist, who definitely works through those who give themselves up to the guidance or obsession. This planet may be called the dweller on the threshold for humanity as a whole. We do live in a negative, polarized, third density reality. This is negative. That's why you could say that Satan rules this world. Thank you, Deicide, the band. Why your thoughts create. So if you're sitting in negativity and you are traumatized and you're anxious and you're stressed and you fear, that is putting energy into thought forms that become entities, hence your demons. I don't know what to tell you guys. And I was one of those contributors. I saw them, I dealt with them. I still have entities trying to attack. But I'm also being tested to make sure I have overcome. I'm in the initiation steps. I'm being heavily tested by the universe in it's like all at once. And it's my reaction and what I'm feeding my energy to or not feeding my energy to that's going to make the big difference in my personal journey. What about you? The destroyer planet. The astronomers of Harvard University, there's a bad thing right there, have already discovered the influence of this dark planet, the destroyer, which, if encountered, means the destruction of Earth. Now, if they're talking about Nemesis or Nibiru, that's an agenda. I'm going to read something that's under here. It's like a footnote. This prophecy has recently, 1917, been strikingly confirmed by Dr. W. Campbell, director of Lick Observatory, who, in explaining why there were sudden black gaps or holes in the giant star clusters around which there was a high density of star distribution right up to the sharply defined edges of the holes, and yet leave the holes empty of stars. Stated in her remarks on the nebulae in the American Museum of Natural History that he was inclined to assume that Barnard and others, that the stars are actually there and that they are invisible because invisible materials between us and the stars are absorbing or hiding the light which the stars are trying to send us. The so-called new stars afford interesting evidence on this point. These are stars which suddenly flash out at points where previously no stars were known to exist. A temporary star is seemingly best explained on the theory that a dark or relatively dark star traveling rapidly through space has met with resistance. Interesting footnote there. Our system astray. Astronomer Service is quoted as saying that the Earth in this whole solar system has gone astray and is trailing off away from the path around the great sun Alcyone in the Pleiades toward the constellation Andromeda in the Milky Way. These are but astronomical confirmations of the fact that we have entered the sixth subrace and that the hosts are rapidly gathering for the great battle of Armageddon. The Redeemer planet. The Earth is being driven through space in this new direction by the character of the thought force of its collective humanity. But there is another planet not yet recognized by science, which is a bright planet, the Redeemer, to be drawn into whose aura means salvation. These two planets may be called the camping grounds of the opposing forces, with the Earth between as the battleground. The real battle. But back of and within the outer cause, as the propelling power, will be the preponderating force of good or evil, thoughts engendered by humanity. Therefore, the real battle is to be fought on the mental and astral planes, with thoughts and psychic forces, good and bad, as weapons, and later will be reflected and precipitated on and in the earth. Hence, all advanced students who consciously determine to make love, brotherhood, purity, and peace their standards of life should enroll themselves among the hosts of the Lord and become soldiers of the cross. Why I keep saying stop feeding the fucking agendas. Stop feeding the evil. Stop hating other things that God's having an expression through. Just stop. When we say, I hate this, that, we're making judgments. We're feeding that side. We're not going to move forward. And I know that is so hard. I get it because I read it all day long, especially 5 to 6 hour live streams. Stop feeding it. Stop listening to people who perpetuate this. Like I keep saying, the history is there. But as soon as I keep hearing the negative stuff, mute goes on my computer. And then I walk away from the screen, so I am not reading the hate because I am not giving it my energy. Whoosh. You can have your opinions, you can have your hate, and that's great. But don't accept the idea that you're going to ascend quick. You're holding it up. So take that with a grain of salt if you wish, but understand We need purity, peace, harmony, and we need to have those mindsets now. The war is now. It's been going on. When we all stop feeding, hating, dividing, pointing fingers, criticizing, judging, all on a negative basis, guess what? Yes, God wins. But which aspect of God wins? It's energy. Is it the positive or the negative? Everybody keeps saying God wins, but God is infinite, infinite. God has both poles, a positive and a negative. God wins. Which part of God won? We're all part of God. There are negative entities who are part of God. Who won? Just making a point. I'm not yelling at you guys. Most of you understand where I'm coming from. You watch me. But this is like the things that frustrate the living daylights out of me. Yes. Am I one of the few people that are a little ahead in this understanding, embodiment of this? Yes. But you want your RV, you want your money, you want this, and you want that. Great. It ain't coming anytime soon until you change your mindset. Until you are a mirror reflecting peace, harmony, and purity to everybody around you. Your lighthouse is shining all those concepts. The last thing is money. Things are going to play out the way they're going to play out regardless. But we can collectively manifest these things quicker. You want the movie to end? Change your mindset. Find the divinity within. Stop hating other things, groups, peoples. Again, I don't condone their actions, but I don't feed their shit. We know stuff is going wrong. There are a lot of people who signed up for some damaging life contracts with God of the polarized positive. That's the experiences they needed to get through this world, even if they're children. I'm sorry. A lot of them are mission spirits. Once you understand how things unfold and how you incarnate and other beings incarnate, it's all experience. We see the suffering. We see the pain. I get it. Transmute it. There's your problem. Are you transmuting the energy? Are you taking the child trafficking and transmuting it, visioning them being saved, visioning them in your mind, because you're not going down where they're going, the military is. You're not capturing things. You're not going out with your pew-pew. Envision it. Meditate on it. Shift your thoughts on it. More and more of the collective do this work, we will be quicker in getting what we want. But you're going to keep waiting and keep waiting. The time is ticking and you're not living your life fully. And that's not all of you. That's just some people. And I'm not here to upset a large amount of you. I'm here giving you what upstairs, my higher self, Yeshua, and other entities bring through me. I'm just a vehicle. And this is just a book telling you about now. It's crazy. Baptism of fire. The earth and humanity are purified alternately by water and by fire. And both are now passing through a baptism of fire. Every soldier in the armies, as well as every munition maker and helper or other worker behind the lines, is helping the great law to bring the purifying process into manifestation. Hence, each one is a servant of the divine flame and is helping to work out a cosmic event in the evolution of mankind, whether he or she knows it or not. The dragon. The dragon of the text quoted at the head of this chapter symbolizes the synthesis of the world's perverted thoughts of sex, and it's commonly called the devil. The three unclean spirits, like frogs, which come from his mouth, symbolize the three great expressions of the dragon force: sex, impurity, suppression, and perversion, the creation of disease by such perversion, and extreme cruelty, frightfulness, and insanity or psychic obsession resulting from an astral entity or individual dweller on the threshold, utilizing sensitive but negative victims through which they can satisfy their desires. The beast. The beast is a symbol of mammon, or greed, expressing through the money power. The three evil spirits issuing from his mouth comprise all the miseries and sorrows that arise as a result of greed and injustice, in their threefold expressions of wars, persecution for territorial or commercial expansion, simulated and financed by money power, poverty resulting from the unjust distribution of wealth, which distribution is controlled by money power, and all the train of evil results from bodily and industrial slavery. The false prophet. The false prophet symbolizes all the false teachings which have been given out in the name of religion or spiritual teaching to justify and uphold both the dragon and the beast, but which have misled humanity, held it back from manifesting peace, love, and brotherhood. From his mouth came forth the three frogs of materialized religion, priestcraft, and temporal power and world domination. Spiritual pride and intolerance and its handmaiden religious persecution. King desire. This conflict of pride, intolerance, and persecution did not die out with the Inquisition, but is still active today. It is now directed not so much against the physical bodies of the victims, but it carried on mentally and psychically through the slanders, scandal, and malicious misrepresentation carried on, especially against religious teachers, through various publications commonly called brutal journalism. All these factors, as the passage quoted plainly tells us, work from King Desire and his allies and their cohorts. MSN. Carnal weapons. One of the first rules impressed upon the spiritual aspirant is that to obtain at-one-ment by the path of love and purity, he must lay down all cardinal weapons. Jesus emphasized this rule when he says to Peter, quote, "Put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword," end quote. Yet we find the discipline spoken of as a soldier of the cross and commanded to array himself as a fighting factor in the world's salvation. Jesus also said, quote, "I came not to send peace, but a sword," end quote. Plane of causes. Behind this paradox lies a great truth, the understanding of which is necessary ere any decided conscious advance in the spiritual unfoldment of either the individual or the race can take place. The conquering must take place on the plane where the causes are engendered and the weapons are love and purity. Transmute evil. This means that thoughts and prayers of love and purity must be sent out in such numbers and with such positive spiritual force that they will surround and transmute the impure and antagonistic forces following the same tactics as the white warrior cells, the phagocytes of the blood, using in meeting an invasion of disease germs, not deny the evil, but surround and transmute the evil into good. If I could do Ace Ventura. Why I'm so passionate about what I do. Trying to help all of you. And that includes myself. It's mind-blowing. But it's the truth. We got to send this and transmute it for the good. Please join me in that. Please control your thoughts. The voice of the silence, I've read that on this channel, tells us, quote, strife with thy thoughts unclean before they overpower thee. Use them as they will thee. And for thou separest them and they take root and grow. Know well these thoughts will overpower and kill thee. If you find them persistently clinging to you, send out an army of pure and loving thoughts to absorb and transmute them. Moral epidemics. Science recognizes the fact that during epidemics of disease, the mere thinking and talking about these diseases will make negative persons more susceptible to it. This does not mean that all disease is merely mental, but that by negative thoughts, you open a door in your aura through which the disease can enter. This effect is still more evident in moral epidemics and in the epidemics of war thoughts, which sweep over nations. Goodness, guys. Carnal thoughts. Therefore, the spiritual aspirant, while fighting steadfastly for justice and righteousness, shall lay down all cardinal thoughts of hatred and revenge, or he will surely perish by the sword. Overcome by the hosts of evil thought forms he has drawn into his aura. I don't make this up. Why, I hope my friends start listening to me, because I care about them. And a lot of people, it's not just because I have an ego and I'm saying it and no, it's because I worry. And that makes my job a hell of a lot harder to perform in my light body. My tea is still very hot, but still good. Karmic readjustments. Applied to warring nations, this principle indicates that we should not waste time and force in specifically directing our prayers and thought forces to the European nations that they shall cease fighting, for they are acting under the tremendous urge of a long pent-up karmic readjustment, which must take place, and cannot respond to our prayers until after the karmic readjustment has been worked out. And we're going through our adjustment right now. As well, might we sit down and pray that a dirty room might be swept and cleaned without any action on our part. The result can be accomplished only by the power of the handmaid's broom. Ephesus prayer. There is only one efficacious way to pray for peace, and that is to pray that the will of the Father shall be done on earth, even as it has in heaven, through those who can understand, respond, and execute that will. That divine will is love, first, last, and all the time. And having prayed thus, believe and know that this divine love is back of the entire world of manifestation, that it is ever working to bring about the reign of universal love, peace, and harmony, even though it be necessary to sweep from its path all that opposes that reign. Race accumulations. The terrible conditions which prevail today are not the will of the Father, but they are creations of man, the result of his resistance and opposition to the divine will, the creations of unbrotherliness, ambition, selfishness, and greed, not altogether on the part of those instrumental in precipitating and now participating in the present conflict, but the accumulation of selfishness and greed of the race, all of which must come up for adjustment now at the close of the cycle of the fifth subrace, or the end of the old dispensation, just as the rash must come out in measles, scarlet fever, etc., the real healing can begin. Peace and righteousness. Therefore, while you pray that these days be shortened, know that peace and righteousness must first come in the hearts of the people all over the nations involved in the whole world. Curse of militarism. Try not to think of individuals except in compassion, knowing that the great law will adjust their conditions in its own good time, aka divine timing. Those who are dying for their ideals, even though those ideals be but of local patriotism and loyalty to an earthly ruler, are in a measure redeemers for the race, for they are dying that the race may be purged from the war thought, the war ideal, and the curse of militarism. Hence, in the next incarnation, they will receive the just reward for their sacrifice. Spiritual compensation. By their suffering and dying, they have brought the world to a greater realization of the utter folly and needlessness of war, if the divine will were followed. By their sacrifice, they have wiped out much of the individual and racial karma, and will receive their compensation by being enabled to incarnate the next time very quickly, and under far more advanced conditions of civilization that they could have experienced have they remained a few years longer in the present life. Federation of Nations. Send your forces of love, peace, and brotherhood into the higher realms, where they will aggregate into a mighty force which shall swallow up all future thoughts of national selfishness and aggrandizement, and be a powerful factor in forming a federation of European nations on the grounds of common humanity and brotherhood. This shall make it impossible for the ambitions or passions of a few to plunge nations into bloody and needless conflicts, and shall be an important factor to preparing for the coming of the Avatar. A super government. Such a federation of nations would function through a Senate of 12 delegates and a House composed of representatives of all nations and peoples. This would constitute a super government which would have jurisdiction over all international affairs. Enforcement. Because of the innate selfishness of the spiritually unevolved masses, the decrees of the Federation would need to be enforced by Army, Navy, and aerial forces contributed from the armed forces, say 1/10, of all member nations and financed by them. Internal independence. Thus, every nation and people would be independent and under the rule of whatever type of government they might choose for their internal national life, but subject to the decrees of the Federation in all matters affecting international relations. Each government would adopt and enforce a Bill of Rights adopted by the Federation corresponding to that of the United States. Astral commotion. All persons who are sensitive have realized for some time there is a terrible commotion in the mental and astral worlds, which is now intensified by the physical conflict going on in Europe and also by the thousands of souls suddenly thrown out of incarnation, many of whom carry with them all the excitement, antagonism, and hatred which animated them as they fought. Dying in hatred. Those who die with hatred in their hearts and who remain unchanged in the afterlife, while consciously opposing the reign of righteousness, will remain out of incarnation for a long, long cycle. In fact, until the race has learned how to deal with them. Emotional control. This composite force is like a tension or steady pressure upon all humanity, tending to make all persons more irritable and excited. Therefore, it is duty of every advanced student to take special pains to see that he does not make an opening in his aura through which such forces can manifest by giving way to impatience, irritation, emotion, or partisanship, race and class antagonism. Become centers of peace. Instead, he should consciously strive to make himself a center from and through which the constructive forces of peace, harmony, love, and brotherhood can radiate in his family and immediate environment on out into all the world. Vitalize thoughts. Arrayed against the host of evil stand the thought creations of love, harmony, justice, righteousness, purity, and upliftment of the race, sent out in a steady stream by the Lodge of Masters and by all great teachers since the world began, as well as by all who have been able to think vitalized thoughts of love and purity, harmony and brotherhood. All humanity have added and are still adding their quota to one side or the other. Array yourself. It is the destiny of this fifth subrace to see the beginning of this great and decisive battle between good and evil, or, to be more explicit, between purity and impurity, unselfishness and selfishness. Hence, it is time that all who desired the salvation of the race and the planet should awaken to the grave conditions we have outlined herein and determinately array themselves on the side of good by sending their individual pure and vital love force to swell the hosts of the Lord. Loving thoughts. For you cannot say a loving word or do a loving deed, even to an animal, without having a loving thought behind it. And every loving and peaceful thought adds strength to the army of the good. As the Christ says, quote, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me, end quote. Hosts of the Lord. The pure hosts of the Lord are mustered in seared ranks according to the natural law and order, while the forces of evil, being a perversion of nature and abnormal, are not organized in the astral world except into individual bands loosely held together only by self-interest and ready at any moment to turn upon one another. Power of organization. A well-known principle of warfare is that a small but well-organized army can overcome a much larger force that is unorganized. And as evil and impure forces are usually sent out by the haphazard impulse, they may be compared to an unorganized mob, while thoughts of good, because they require will and effort, are consciously created and can be gathered together by the masters and formed into a well-drilled, well-disciplined, and well-officered army, always in good fighting condition. Good is stronger than evil because it is constructive and immortal and works in harmony with the great law. The masters help. The masters of the Great White Lodge, although few in numbers as compared with the multitudes of humanity, are nevertheless able to engender and consciously use a fair greater degree of creative force on the side of purity, peace, love, and brotherhood. But even they must work with the law of karma and may not forcibly prevent a race or subrace from experiencing its karma, retribution, and readjustment. But their efforts, being consciously directed and wisely applied, weigh heavily in the scale. Their inspiration. They do not act on the physical plane, however, except through their disciplines and those who respond to their inspiring currents of force. Hence, their great need today of those who will consciously make themselves centers of peace, purity, harmony, and love, and be more or less conscious instruments through which they can work. They are the directing force comparable to the officers of an army, but the disciplines and disciples must consciously become willing volunteers who shall compose the great body of fighting units which the master shall train and direct. Army of the Lord. Therefore, instead of devoting all your efforts toward unfolding your faculties and developing your personality, set to work earnestly and consciously to create warriors for the army of the Lord, to the end that not only the race, but the planet itself shall be saved from destruction. Hi. Vindicated? Much? Validated? Yes. Guys, I don't waste my energy on words that aren't pure and from the heart. I don't do this channel just to do a channel. I'm not making money from it. I'm doing this to help humanity. That's my mission. Are you going to take the advice and start working on yourself, changing your mindsets, changing how you are putting out energy into this world? It is very challenging. It is very upsetting. But I know that each and every one of you with hard work and diligence can do this and then spread it to others. Forgive yourself for doing it. Give yourself compassion and grace when you fall back into it. But no, this war is huge and it's on multiple planes of existence. And we can't even begin to think, oh, why hasn't the plan gone off? Why hasn't this or that happened? And we're waiting and we're waiting and we're going to continue to wait. Everybody's in a rush. Yeah, there's a lot of suffering out there. Huge amounts. I'll be back there very soon. If things don't start picking up and I can't get some sort of help or get a job that I can physically do, because that's my problem right now. I'm putting in applications again. I'm like rewriting my resume a million times just to see what the hell. So we still live in a construct that we need these things, sadly, but we're not moving anywhere until more people start getting on the bandwagon and stop feeding the hatred, the division, and stop feeding that side. They're eating the loosh that you just participate in giving. You're feeding the entities who are using you to feed that hate. Like I said in the other video, you could constructively criticize people for what they have done wrong or not in alignment in a way that is not in a hateful tone. One that is not nitpicking and at their outwardly appearance. We have a tendency to do these things. We've been brainwashed to do a lot of these negative things. It's now to unprogram yourself and to be a righteous person. And again, you don't need to be Catholic to walk a moral path. You don't need whatever entity you choose to give your energy and will to, great. Make sure it's something of a positive, righteous entity, energy. That's all. You know, they're religious, they're Catholic, they're following Catholicism, they follow the Bible. Not everybody does. I'm a proponent of do you boo, but do you boo with purity, love, and in harmony in your heart. That's all. Doesn't need to have Christ involved. If that's not your paradigm, that's okay. But if you want to contribute to humanity getting better and getting this show on the road, way more people need to start transmuting the evil. Way more people have to stop feeding and willing energy to manifest more shit. Karma is going to play itself out regardless of what we do, but we can soften a blow. We can when we put our will and intention into things that are harmonious, that we're transmuting the evil. Things will be a little less and more softer of a falling for all of us if we put our energy into that. Reading the news and commenting on those things, that is not feeding energy. That is us understanding what we did, where we cannot repeat moving forward. But when you start spewing hate, picking sides, these people are bad, those people are bad. Well, those people over the negative polarity, I'm not feeding them. If I call them negative polarized sources of God, I'm not feeding them energy. But when you say F these people, there's so much more I want to say, but I won't. There's where this book comes in handy to back up my wording, my feelings, vindicates and validates me. I needed that tea really bad. So guys, this was an amazing chapter. I'm going to leave it here. The next chapter is a worldwide call to prayer. We're in this time because we signed up for it. Let's really start consciously being aware of that. Come into your divinity, come in understanding where you are in your process. Be gracious to yourself and have compassion, because we all fed this side unknowingly. We all did it to an extent. We need to make that conscious transmutation and make that choice now. If you all want what I've been hearing everybody wanting, and yes, a lot of it is out of purity of love and not wanting human suffering anymore. And it's beautiful. But are you contributing to their agenda by feeding that energy to them instead of transmuting it? Words can be spellcasted. Let's transmute the evil and create some magic out of our words that is for the positive. We need to start focusing on moving forward. Even though the war is happening in front of us and everything is unfolding, and if we're not visualizing the brand new world and we're not bringing ourselves and our families and others into that world, and we're not transmuting the evil, we're going to perpetually stay here until everybody gets on board. And maybe the first 2 waves of flashes might help. There's more than one wave of light. Plasmic energy hitting our DNA to upgrade us. It's up to you how to utilize that energy. It's up to you how to transform your mindset. It's up to you how to change your projection of what you're doing. It isn't an easy task to do, but we have the time now to do it. Consciously work on yourself each and every day. We're here. And you're going to keep waiting and looking at that clock and keep having the carrot dangled in front of you until you do the work. Then when you see it, you see the illusion, you don't feed it anymore. And your life gets better for it. Because you're going to live your everyday life consciously with the breath of source and the knowing. You're not going to sit in fear anymore. You're not going to sit with anxiety and nervousness anymore. I sure don't. I'm like a Viking saying at Ragnarok, till Valhalla. Because I know death is just a construct. If I sit in a great hall and have to repeat that battle every night, that might suck. I don't want to be in a loop, but we need to go back into those other stories and pick out what Armageddon is to the Bible and apply those learnings and lessons. We're here now. Let's strive to create a better world for the next generation that will be the great race. And we'd be the seeders for it. Sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, protection, and energy, and shielding energy. Please be safe, be seen. The weather is going to get batshit crazy in the next few days. Please be mindful to get to the store, to get what you need. Don't panic. Let's be here for each other. Let's work together. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. I am feeling a hell of a lot better. I'm still muddled in my voice. I'm working on it each and every day to get better. So, and I'm doing it holistically. I could have went to the doctor and got an antibiotic, but I got my antibiotics right here. So until the next one, guys, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I updated my website with some new, most of these goodies that are sitting out on the table, new candle scents. Anything that you could do to support me, that'd be great. I'm going back to where I was, and hopefully divine timing intervenes this time and I can get something to sustain myself steady. So until the next time, guys, I hope all of you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you. Bye, guys.